Happy holidays from Bloodbath and beyond. Today we review Christmas Evil. Have yourself a deadly little Christmas.
Written and directed by Lewis Jackson, starring Brandon Maggart, Christmas Evil is about Harry. He's a young boy at the time that he discovers Santa is sleeping with his mom. He grows up and he ends up working at a toy factory. He's obsessed with Christmas, and unfortunately, the people at the toy factory start belittling him and making fun of him, basically bullying him to the point where he decides to exact revenge by murdering them on Christmas Eve. So what do we like? I enjoyed Harry because first of all, this is a 1980s movie. It was actually made in 1980. And Harry is just this weird, creepy dude.
But if you're bad boys and girls, your name goes in the bad boys and girls book. And I'll bring you something horrible.
He was extremely creepy when he's writing the kids' names in the naughty list and the nice list. It's awkward when a 40, 50-year-old man is stalking children.
Yeah, they build up his character for about 40 minutes, maybe half hour, 40 minutes, and it's just straight him being creepy. And you don't really know where it's getting, and eventually it unfolds and he becomes this fucking psycho. As if he wasn't already. It's just a psycho dressed up as Santa this time.
Another character I liked in this film was Moss Garcia. He didn't have a lot of screen time, but whenever he was on, it was comedy gold. He's the naughtiest kid out of all the kids in the block, and you can't help but actually like him.
You calling him the naughtiest kid, you sound just as creepy as fucking Harry.
It did sound weird coming out of my mouth.
This movie is pretty cheesy. A lot of it is cringeworthy. So I like that aspect of it because you're just constantly what the fuck is going on? And if you haven't seen the movie, this is a spoiler because it is the last scene in the movie, but it's fucking hilarious and worth mentioning, and it has no relevance to the rest of the film. Harry drives off of a cliff. His van, he painted a sleigh on, so, it makes sense because he's trying to be Santa. Anyway, he drives off this cliff, and his car just starts floating and ends up floating into the moon. I don't know why. It doesn't make sense. Maybe it's to tell us that he is Santa, after all. However, I don't know.
I definitely...
Or maybe he died going over the cliff and it's just in his head that he's actually Santa. I don't know, but it's cheesy as hell and funny as hell. Now let's move on to our dislikes.
This film is poorly paced, and being a holiday horror, the pacing doesn't give it that horror aspect. It definitely gives it more of a Christmas, feel-good movie. In 36 years now, are we gonna watch Elf and be what is this Will Ferrell guy doing? Is he creeping on these kids pretending he's an elf?
Hey.
Your costume is pretty.
Oh, it's not a costume. I'm an elf.
I think Santa in general is pretty creepy. The whole concept of a dude that's been watching your every move for your whole lifetime, especially as a child, and then creeping into your house to either punish you with coal or give you a gift so that you remain good. The whole concept of Santa's kind of fucked. So take it as it is. Santa's weird. This Santa's weird, but most of the movie is just kind of Santa being Santa, even though it's Harry being creepy.
Yeah.
You feel me? Speaking on the pacing, it is worth mentioning that Travis is at my house right now while we're recording this, and he couldn't review it properly because he kept falling asleep because it was pretty boring. So me and John did stay awake and did watch the movie, and I agree. It's mad boring.
And the one thing everyone's gonna go in here expecting is that it's a horror film. But we don't get any killing, we don't get anything until what you assume is the final arc. Going back to the pacing, when the killing happens, there's a whole other part of this movie that is just a chase scene. And it drags on.
Yeah, so essentially the movie does have a couple on-screen kills. It's 2 scenes in the entire movie. They last probably 20 seconds combined, and the rest is just this guy walking around. He goes, he dances.
has a few drinks, get kisses on the cheek.
He isn't doing a ton of things bad other than he had 2 like off moments in his day, I'd say.
Also, Harry as a Santa Claus, he never hoed once. He just laughed. I was expecting him to hoe at least once.
Yeah, there's no hose. And he wasn't a particularly good Santa, if I'm being honest. He did try to go down a chimney. He failed miserably in like a super long scene that didn't need to exist. There's a lot of scenes in this movie that don't need to exist. It's a pretty straightforward story that could have been executed in about 30 seconds.
And there's a lot in this film where Harry interacts with characters and they don't build off of it. We see him constantly like loving Susie, which is awkward, and hating Moss, and we don't see any follow through with that. Like we don't see any like resolve to him punishing Moss for being bad or rewarding Susie.
Such a sweet baby.
That is extremely frustrating when they spend a good 50 minutes building certain stories and they just never even go back to them. Like instead, it turns into like a mob mentality. You have townspeople with torches trying to run this guy out of the city. And that's that. It's a pretty shitty movie, if I'm being honest. And I don't understand why it's on so many top 10 lists. I feel like the people that are putting this on top 10 lists have not watched enough horror Christmas movies to like warrant making a top 10 list. Like this seems like a very filler movie. Like, ah shit, I need one more. Oh, Christmas Evil's a funny name. Let's put that on there. I don't think I've actually ever seen it, but it should be on this list. It's bullshit. It shouldn't be on any list. It's garbage. I don't think that anyone should really watch this, so let's move on to our final thoughts and ratings. If you couldn't tell, I was not a fan of this movie. I really don't understand why I've heard of it so much. This is a first time watch for me, and it's just really bad. There's no reason that I would ever revisit this movie. And I don't know why so many people do. I just don't get it. Like, it's not cheesy enough to like it for the cheese factor. It's just really boring. Like, I think every year, if I were to put this on, I'd fall asleep. So I'm gonna give this 0.5 morning stretches out of 5.
I completely agree with Jay. This film, I just don't get it. I don't know why people say, go out and watch this. This is like the best holiday horror movie out there, because it's not. It is very far from being a horror movie, and it's not even like a it's so bad it's good movie. It's just a really awkward movie, and it's boring. Like if a movie's gonna put you to sleep, then it's doing its job being like a boring movie. But it's
well said, such eloquence, John.
But it's really not an entertaining movie at all. There's nothing about it that is enjoyable. So I really do not recommend you guys going out to see this. So with that being said, I'm gonna give this 0.5 leaving your marks on someone else's house out of 5.
As always, thank you for watching. Like this video, comment below with your thoughts on Christmas Evil. I know a lot of you have seen it, a lot of you have recommended it, so let us know your thoughts. And if this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We have another video coming for you tomorrow, Christmas Day. Have a happy holiday.